Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin.
Welcome to the podcast, concerts that made us, interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down. The greatest live shows and the cheering crowd sound. It's concerts that made us, concertsthatmadeus.com.
How's it? We are Max
And Love. And we've got a beautiful album coming out on the 14th of June called These Blues Might Get You Too. We hope you tune into that along with every other episode of Concerts That Made Us.
See you on the blues train.
But I've got nothing more to give. Time has said it over and over again. We keep on running, then you rest in the dark. So don't you keep on this path. Time has said it over and over again. Your heart might call, so go and get back to loving you. Your heart might call, so go and get back to loving you. Remember when you're sitting in hurt, that you're not sitting there with stone. You're sitting where the growth could start. Oh yes, you're sitting with the softest heart. Remember when you're sitting in hurt, that you're not sitting there with stone. You're sitting where the growth could start. Oh yes, you're sitting with the softest heart. Oh yes, you're sitting with the softest heart. You're sitting with the softest heart. Oh, you're sitting with the softest heart.
Max and Love, you're very welcome to Concerts That Made Us.
Thank you very much. Very
Thanks
happy
for
to be
having
here.
us.
It's fantastic to have you guys now. I'm really looking forward to diving into your music over the next bit. Now, you guys are releasing your debut album, These Blues Might Get to You, on June 14th. I've been listening to it all week, and I feel like I'm back in like the deep south in America in the 50s. Take us deeper into it.
Well, I think there's a really interesting thing that when we started as Max and Love, we tried to focus as much as possible on Delta blues. Max is like a walking encyclopedia when it comes to blues and rock and roll, so he was pretty much educating me on it. But over the past 3 years that we've been active, we've actually been kind of expanding the style of music that we play a lot more to let all of its kind of influences lean into the music a lot more, from soul to jazz to even technically the precursor to blues, which is a lot of traditional West African music, kind of playing around with that and seeing what that does for the sound. So the album is definitely a largely influenced by blues album for us, but not fully traditional. But if it takes you there, that's a great thing.
I mean, it's great that you say that, because I mean, yes, the foundation was that. So I think on top of all that we add in the backbone, that the backbone of the blues, or if I may call the 12 bars, is somewhat is quite present in our music. But despite all the influences that shape and mold us, one thing that is quite prominent throughout the whole album is just our level of trying to push the bounds of music, not just the genre of the blues, but because of one common ground that myself and Love share is how experimental we are with our approach to music. So we try to play with it as best as we can to whatever might be, I guess, influencing us at the time, not just from a stylistic point of view, but just from an emotion point of view, because our music is largely composed or written from very much where we find ourselves in that particular time of our lives when that song or part was conceptualized, you know?
Right. I get you. I get you. Now, I have to mention the record opens very dramatically with train intro. It just that daka daka daka. I love it. I love it. Where does this flair for theatrics come from with you guys?
I mean, the train theme is quite is quite prominent. When no one can speak about the blues without somehow talking about the train, from how guys would travel back in the day, where like hobos would move from town to town, like as in with on just nothing but the clothes on their back. So just like, I'd even bring up the imagery of the cartoon with the stick, the hobo cartoon with the stick and the like that polka dotted cloth wrapped at the end of the stick. Like, that imagery where like just someone would get on a train and you go on this journey of self-exploration, just leaving wherever you are. It's almost like the idea of you don't know where you're going, but you know where you are isn't it. So you're about to embark on a journey to like not just find yourself, but to discover what is out there in the world. And the themes and imagery of the train just seemed appropriate as to not just us going on this journey of finding our sound and who we are as Max and Love, but also inviting the audience. It's a fitting image to invite the audience on this journey with us as we explore these things.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, I have to say you're making me want to hop on a train now with just no destination at the moment. When it came time for you guys, when you decided, right, let's make our debut album, what was the original vision and how close do you think the final version is?
Well, I think this is about like 90 to 95% maybe is close to the vision that we had. We tend to create very, very well and intentionally thought out sets. When we performed, we did our best to travel the music as much as possible before getting into studio. So when we got to the album recording stage, we already understood all the songs in and out pretty well. We understood the order of the music, the sequence of songs. We understood what that needed to be and what it meant to the narrative as well as the sound of the whole album pretty well. So we pretty much had to just decide on like maybe one or two other songs that made it or had to get cut out as far as the general order of the album. But instrumentation wise, I'd say it's about like 95 to 98% exactly what it was before and what we had envisioned before.
Oh, it's not something you hear very often. Fair play to you. Were there any challenges or memorable moments during recording and production?
Oof.
I'll say, okay, I'll go challenging, you go memorable. I'll say the only, I know for me, I don't know if Love felt the same, because he has a lot more experience with studio work and just recording sessions and all that jazz. And it was my first time ever in such a setting. So for me, because of how, as Love has mentioned, that the songs have already like had a life and traveled before we got them into studio, and we've been performing these songs for some time and workshop them between ourselves and with band and all other musicians that we had the opportunity to play with. Now coming into studio for me was then, how do we encompass that feeling, that great atmosphere that we got or that we created on stage? How do we put that on a record? That was for me the biggest challenge of just getting that emotion into sort of like a record, because a large part of Max and Love and who we are lies in our live performances and our live shows, because of just how theatrical and dramatic, and they're an experience. You experience Max and Love. We're not I always say we're a band you experience rather than you listen to. And if you take away us being present there with you, how do we still get that message and feeling across? That was the biggest challenge, I would say.
I mean, look, we were lucky enough to have an incredible music producer, a guy by the name of Matthew Fink. He has a lot of experience working with bands, working as a musician, as a band member, working as a composer, as a producer, as a mixing engineer. All of that, he has a lot of experience working with different kinds of acts. So he definitely helped us translate as much of that as possible into the record, and also helped us amplify certain things that we wouldn't be able to amplify on stage. For example, one of the things that we did, when you think about memorable moments, one of the things that we had layered in one of the songs, it might have been more than one, but I think only one song, is that Matthew kind of had us record the drums multiple times. Particularly with this one, we had two different takes of a particular section of a song, and he layered them and placed them stereo left, right. So we kind of have this really heavy kind of approach to the drums that kind of plays through, and you feel it a lot more heavily because of the way it's played. Because we had an incredible drummer, a guy by the name of Livos, he knows the stuff. He's traveled with us long enough, so he knows how to play that stuff the way it needs to be done to keep its organic kind of feel, but still be replicable. Those kind of things are the things that we got as a benefit from being in studio working with Matthew Fink.
Yeah, I have to say, that's a name that at this stage now, I've interviewed many South African musicians, and that is a name that keeps popping up. It seems like if you have Matthew on board, you're going to make a great record,
I mean, hey, when you're good, you're good, You're good, and everyone wants a piece of you.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, when you look at the track list, is there any specific tracks that maybe hold special meaning to you guys?
Oh,
woohoo! Yo,
the whole thing.
It's like choosing who's your favorite child,
Yeah. For real, all of these songs were created in very different times for us. I mean, one of the songs, the final song on the album, Escape, Max had created the foundation of that guitar part in 2019?
Yes.
And that's long before we even started this band. That's a good 3 years before we started, 2 years before we started the band. So, and that song itself also grew in so many different ways once we brought band in, once I got into the song, all of the different ways we performed it, what it meant for us at different stages in our lives, in our careers as Max and Love. All of these things have very different places for us in our hearts. and represent different parts of our journey as well. So I don't think it'd be possible to choose a single song, but I would say that every single song I can tell you why I love it, and it'd be a very different reason.
Yeah. I mean, it was hard enough for us to narrow down a single to release first. That should give you an idea on how difficult it was for us to say that song stands out, you know?
I
Yeah.
get you. I get you. Now, something I'm intrigued by is you guys are friends since 2013, but only formed a band in 2021. I'm sure many people are wondering what took so long.
I couldn't play guitar in 2013.
Right.
Also, I never played. I haven't even picked up the guitar in 2018. So I only started playing guitar in 2019.
No way.
Seriously.
Okay, how do you get that good in that space of time then?
I mean, shit. Thank you, firstly, for that compliment. But I think in 2013, if anything, I was just a big fan of Love's music. Because he had already started his musical journey and career, and we went to the same varsity, the same school. We both went to a film school named AFDA, and we're both studying film. He studied film and music, and then I was just doing film and stage, which is also just largely where a lot of our theatrics and drama comes from when we on stage performing music. But yeah, we were just in the same friends group, and we just had mutual respect for each other's crafts. And I remember always telling him every time. So what our varsity used to do is that every Friday they would allow the music kids to do sort of a showcase in the main quad during lunchtime. And every now and then Love would perform. And I remember just watching him and just being in awe of him performing on stage. And I'd always tell him that, like, yo, dude, one day I'm going to learn how to play guitar, and I'm going to be like a guest guitarist, but I'm going to be like a rock star. Because I wanted to be like something like Johnny Depp or like a Slash, who played with all other musicians, but would just come in, really like fuck shit up like quite a little bit, and just show face, make everybody scream, and then leave. And I tell him that since 2013, 2014 and 15, that one day I'm going to learn how to play. And I just want to be a guest guitarist in one of your shows for like one or two songs. I just want to play with you one day. And he'd always laugh and be like, yeah, do it. You can do it. Because he knew I could, but I was just, what do we call these? What is self-doubt, insecurities and all that jazz. And then come 2019, where I decided, might as well just learn, started playing around. But it wasn't until 2020 where we were all forced to take a step back, because we all have these excuses of, I never have time. If only I had the time. And then the universe was like, okay, cool, we're going to give you time. We'll give you time. Here you go. Learn or find yourself. And it was till then, 2020, when I really put in the grind. And it was me and the University of YouTube. And I started learning how to play. 2021 came, and because live shows were pretty much at that time almost obsolete, things were starting to open up again in 2021, and we found some what was this thing called, an open mic in Pretoria. Do you want to take the story from here, Love? Where we started?
Yeah, So Max found this open mic happening in Pretoria. At the time, we both hadn't been doing exactly what we wanted to be doing. I had been having a difficult time kind of getting things moving again with my solo career, trying to gather musicians together to get things going. And Max had been doing a side project, a band at the time that it was called Songs of Evermore. And it just wasn't kind of moving the way he wanted to move. So he saw this open mic, and for some reason he was like, let's do it. Let's go and do this thing. And I was like, cool. Yeah, I'm down for a challenge. And we came together, and I think we did maybe one rehearsal or something like that. And then we were planning to do like 3 or 4 rehearsals that week, but we did like one rehearsal. And then on my way to his place for our next rehearsal, I got a call from a producer on a shoot that I'd done a few days ago, who told me that, yo, listen, one of the people you're acting with has COVID. He's positive, so you're gonna need to like isolate. So I had to isolate straight after that, and wasn't gonna be able to do the open mic. Max, for some reason, I somehow managed to convince him to just go and do the open mic by himself. And he went up and he did it, and he did an incredible job. And as a reward for winning, I guess winning in inverted commas, the open mic, they offered him a slot to come and perform at one of the other venues, I think it was. And he was like, "Yeah, great, but I want to bring my boy along so we can do this together." A lot of back and forth. He had to negotiate really hard to make it happen, but eventually they caved and they let it happen. And we went up, we did this performance, and then I guess it just somehow worked out. We did our thing, we did it well, we're really happy and proud of ourselves, and then we walked off and social media did its thing. And we didn't necessarily go viral, but I guess the video traveled to all the right people that it needed to travel to. And from there, bookings just started coming, people started messaging, we started getting approached, we had meetings, and then all of a sudden we're a band. And at that first gigs point, we didn't even have a name. I was still going as we're going as my solo artist name and him. So Love Sichaba and Max. But eventually we came together and we made a Max and Love, and it worked out right.
Right, right. It must feel like a bit of a whirlwind, does it? Because I know in your first year together, you shared the stage with major names in South Africa. And in your second year, you were listed in Forbes Africa top 10 rising stars. And you also scored a short film. I mean, what does that kind of success do to your approach to music in such an early stage?
The accolades are bigger than what it feels like. I mean, in the moments when we get like, I mean, like probably the Forbes thing is probably the thing that one of the ones that excited us the most. But they're great in the moment. But I don't think the scene really recognizes all of those things as much as one might think from the outside. But also, those are all like the first few steps on so many other steps that we need to take in order for us to really be a globally recognized or even nationally recognized act. It takes a lot more work. The 10,000 hours haven't arrived yet. You know, there's all of that kind of stuff that we still need to do. So stepping stones, all of the steps have been really nice, covered in marble. That's great, but you still have a lot more steps to take.
One thing that Love and I share very deeply in common is the sentiment of keeping our head down and grinding, always. So the milestones happen, we acknowledge them, we take them in, and then we put our heads back down and we continue working, because the work never ends. It's sort of just something that's very dear to us. So as much as it does come, there's so much more that we want to say and we want to create, and it's just a matter of being in the. We just want to be in the right places to be able to be more heard, if that's even English.
I get you. I like it. It's a good outlook to have. Now, guys, it's called Concerts That Made Us. So I'm going to have to ask you some concert related questions, if you don't mind. So first off, as a concert goer, what concerts do you think have made you?
Ooh.
Always good when you get sounds like that after a question.
Yeah. You know what's the thing? I think on my side, let me say this. I'm gonna for the sake of this question, I'm gonna consider any live show a concert. I don't think it's been any single concert that's truly made me, but I do know it's been a good continuation of a bunch of different concerts. I constantly complain to Max that I don't like watching live performances on like TV or on a laptop or on my phone or something. I feel like it takes away the real kind of effect of live music. But now when you ask this question, I realize that one of the biggest concerts that I've ever, or one of the concerts that's made the biggest impact on me, the concert that made me, I guess you could say, is one that I've brought up to Max actually a couple times. Is there's a performance by Hugh Masekela. I think it's at the Market Theatre that he did. It might have not even been that one, but there was a show he did, and I was like maybe 8, 9, 10 years old. For those who aren't aware, Hugh Masekela is one of, if not the greatest jazz musician to come out of South Africa. His one of the last horns that he had, he got straight from Miles Davis himself. He did a performance at this theater, and as he was performing, I was just playing with my toys in front of the TV. For some reason, this was on, and he's performing his show, and at some point, I guess the audience wasn't engaging the way he needed them to. It kind of felt like people were treating it a little bit like a ballet and kind of just sitting in the audience and watching him and his band do their thing. And at some point, he just gets up and he's like, okay, he stops the band mid-show. This is all live recorded, and he directly engages with the audience and kind of tries to hype them up to get into the show and gets them standing up and gets them moving, and then gets back into the performance. And somehow, I can't remember all the details of it, but he was able to transform the way he engaged with the audience and transform the way he engaged with the band, and kind of brought the band alive as well, to kind of engage with everybody so much more. And the rest of the show was incredible. I dropped my toys and just watched this man. I have no idea what was going through my mind, but I stopped everything I was doing and I focused in on him, not just because he called for my attention, but because he earned it in that moment. So I'd say that's definitely one concert that's definitely made me.
I like it. I like it.
I would say so. Okay, it's fair to say. It's safe to say that the concepts we talk about are concepts that like inspired us to be who we are. Okay. Two. One. And this is the reason I pretty much picked up one of two reasons why I picked up the guitar would be Led Zeppelin. The song remains the same. 1973. Live at Madison Square Garden. That's one of the main reasons why I picked up the guitar to begin with, and why I fell so in love with rock and roll, and mostly with the live performance aspect of rock and roll, wanting to be on stage and playing, was just seeing Jimmy Page and Robert Plant and John Paul Jones and Bonzo just doing their thing on that stage. Particularly the song "Since I've Been Loving You," what he did on that stage. I think I watched that like 10 times back to back the first time I saw that thing, and it completely changed my life. I would say that was the day I was reborn. I'm that dramatic. It really was. And the most recent one, and by most recent, I'm talking like 2019, 2020, would be when I discovered the guitarist by the name of Joe Bonamassa. And a particular show of his was the Live at Carnegie Hall. He's first, I think, one of the few acoustic concerts he ever did. But he brought together a bunch of different incredible musicians from all around the world, which is pretty much also what Jimmy Page and Robert Plant did in their 94 album, No Quarter, where they traveled the world to work with different indigenous like people from different villages and bringing the world music together. So when Bonamassa did that, but on an acoustic setting, that's another thing that inspired me, and also just my approach to music, in the sense of music is an entity that needs to be explored in all its vastness, from different races, different cultures, nationalities, and places around the world. That you can't just, I feel you can't just have one outlook of life to be able to approach music. And that's what the two things that these things have in common for me, and but particularly Joe Bonamassa's one, with all the people that he had worked with, that it is because of that through I view every other musician that you work with as almost like a vessel or a window into another lifetime that you otherwise didn't know of. And because you get to experience that life outside of your own, it does something to your approach to music. I know I just went a lot deeper than what the question was, but it just gives a sense of understanding as to why I appreciate music and these shows the way I do.
I think it's very telling that these incredible shows that we're talking about, the concerts that made us, are all things that we watched via technology and not actually being in the audience. I don't know what it's supposed to mean, but it's definitely a sign of the times.
Yeah,
I must say that it definitely doesn't mean that the music scene isn't alive and strong in South Africa. I think, I know this is a bit of a side note, but I think South Africa has some of the best music in the world and has some of the best musicians in the world. So there's a lot of really incredible stuff happening on stage here. We just don't have as many stages as we'd like to kind of let this industry kind of flourish the way it needs to. But there's a lot of stuff on stage happening here that's extremely impactful, inspired, and inspiring.
Yeah, definitely. definitely. I'm always saying it's one of the most vibrant music scenes anywhere, in my opinion. And the moment we're all waiting for any listeners that haven't been lucky enough to see one of your shows, what can they expect? Give us the full experience if you can.
Drama.
So much drama.
Drama.
So much drama. Jazz hands.
Everything you hear about Train Intro, that's what we try to do across the whole set. We try to keep it as consistent a show as possible. With majority of the shows that we put together, we want to make it the kind of shows where we design it in a way that we know exactly when the audience will or will not clap. Everything is extremely intentional. We link it together with transitions and narrative moments and speeches and songs and guitar solos and all of that to kind of take you on a journey that either is musically or story-wise a journey, if not both. But we try to combine everything that we love as Max and everything that we love as Love to put into the music, to put into the show, and to engage with the audience as much as possible. Everything is constantly growing as far as what the live show looks like. We went from performing just Max and I with a kick drum, guitar, vocals, drum, and grew to having a bassist and a drummer join us, to growing to having a keys guy join us, to growing to having a cellist play with us, to growing to have backing vocalists play with us. So we're getting, well, the backing vocalists haven't gotten on stage just yet, but they did get onto the record. But everything is constantly evolving. What we can guarantee is that you'll get an immersive experience that you won't get anywhere else, for better or for worse. We've been blessed enough to have people cry in our audiences. Been blessed enough to have people travel across the country, telling us that that we're one of the few blues musicians or few bands that they really feel like they can travel across the country for. And it's really, really, really humbling and beautiful thing to know that we're able to affect people in that way. We try to make music that challenges the soul and the spirit to feel as much as possible.
Right.
In a term, they can expect musical theater.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Sums it up right there. Is there a gig you guys have played that is maybe a highlight or the best gig?
You know, I know a few moments where we've walked off stage and be like, yo, that's our best show yet. That's really our best show yet. And then a good 2 or 3 months later, we walk off stage again and say, man, God damn it, that's our best show yet. Because of how many times we've kind of said that, I don't know if I can pinpoint one, because there's been great big outdoor music festivals that really just melted our hearts and our souls, and we were just so present with each other, with the band, with the audiences that were present, to people who were just working at the events. Like everything just aligned and came together, from big stages to even the more intimate shows that touched our hearts in a way we really did not expect. I think that question, or maybe it's just me, it's just one of those again, that how do you pinpoint one moment to say that's the best day of my life? You know?
I think you've gotten it by now, but we struggle to give you a simple answer. This is not this is who I think we think about these things a little bit too much. But yeah, I think I second Max there. I'm racking my brain here trying to think of the best show, but I feel like we've had a bunch of impactful shows for different reasons and memorable ones for different reasons.
I think that also just speaks to us and our approach to performing and our music, that every show from our side is 150% that we are giving. And there's I think it's Shakespeare who says, play well your part, therein all the honor lies. Right? And through every show that we play and every show that we approach, the moment we step on stage, we have this, I'll call it a ritual that we do before we step on stage, where myself and Love would look at each other and would center ourselves, just have a bit moment of silence, dab each other's hands and embrace each other, to saying that we're about to walk on a journey together. And what happens from here, we are with each other and we're giving it our all regardless. And the rest is left to the universe and the powers that be that are present when we are playing. And that's all that we can do. And that's all the power that we have, is to be as truthful as we possibly can be in every time, from the first note that is hit or that is sung on that stage to the very last. And as long as that truthfulness is present, every show will stand as a great show in our lives.
Right. This one might be easier to pinpoint now. To switch that question around, is there a gig, without naming names now, but is there a gig that was maybe the worst experience? Everything went wrong, and how did you guys overcome it? Or have you had a gig like that yet?
Hey, love.
Look, I'll tell you this. There's definitely been a bunch of them. The most recent one was really unfortunate for me. We Max and I took a very intentional break from performing on stage when we jumped into this album. And we had set our marker for October the 8th last year. There was a show that we did at an exhibition space, and that was supposed to be our final show, and we did it, and it was amazing. And then we forgot about another gig that we promised someone we'd do, and we did that, and no one went all right. And then we had I think we did like 2 more shows that year after that we just shouldn't have been doing. And then things just kept getting progressively worse with those 2 shows. The final show, I'd say, was probably for me the worst show I've played in probably the past year to year and a half. Everything technically went really wrong. They got us there at like 8:15 in the morning, only for the stage to not be set up. This is like a big kind of semi-festival, big event. Get on stage only for one engineer to be available, not being able to run around and get all the things sorted. Do a really unnecessarily long sound check, only to get on stage when it's our time, and for the mics that I'm supposed to be using to be now lost. So they have to find completely new mics, and they have to create new mixes for them. And then mid our sets, mics are on and off. I perform with a normal dry mic and then with a mic that's loaded with reverb. Both my mics are dry, so everything I'm singing doesn't necessarily mean anything because I'm singing into 2 mics and the same thing is coming out of both sides, so I look a little bit stupid. I don't know what's coming out of the front of house because the mix and the monitors is terrible. It's just everything just kind of just landed on top of each other, and mentally I wasn't in a very good space at the time. So all of it just knocked me out completely. So I'd say that that's definitely one of the worst shows for many reasons already mentioned, and some that I haven't as well.
Right. That definitely takes the cake as the worst one. So, geez.
Yeah.
Max, is it the same one for you?
It is very much the same one. I mean, the things he had spoken about are just like, it's just the tip of the iceberg from what he experienced. I mean, there's still 3 other band members who we were all also just going through our own little moments with what happened during that show on stage. And then only later to find out that, because I went through 3 guitars that day. Where I go through an acoustic guitar, an electric guitar, and a resonator guitar. And the first 15 minutes of the set is us performing the songs that are on the acoustic guitar, only to find out that the whole time no one could hear the acoustic guitar whatsoever.
Oh.
Like it wasn't present at all. I hear this from my partner who I was seeing at the time, who's like, "Yo, dude, we were just seeing you play a guitar." But the whole first 15 minutes was just bass, drums, and love. You were not there at all.
Oh, man.
And it's so disheartening at the end when you hear that. You're thinking, like, I was playing my ass off back there and just nobody got that. Man, it just wasn't a good day as a whole. And it wasn't just limited to what happened on stage, but from pre-stage to on stage, and worst part after we got off stage. There was also just zero acknowledgement of that from organizers. The engineer was also on our backs there was a point where he was fighting us about a twin plug. He fought with us about a twin plug. I remember that being the most jarring thing as to, because he said we didn't have a twin plug in in our tech rider. Therefore, it shouldn't be his responsibility at all to offer a twin plug for. I think I'm the one who needed it for my pedal board on stage. There was just a blank PowerPoint that was there. Yeah, man, it was just that. It's been a
Majority of
show
the
I have.
shows that go south is usually because of the engineers, honestly.
Yeah.
We've had some extremely good engineers and we've had some extremely horrible ones. And 9 times out of 10, the bad engineers aren't bad because they don't know they like how to actually mix. They're usually bad because they have extremely high egos, extremely inflated egos, and they seem to think that they know better than everyone else. So dare you tell them how you would like to be mixed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just ends up snowballing into all sorts of different issues.
I could imagine. Right, we better get the tempo back up a bit before we dive into the last couple of questions. Future plans that are set in stone, gigs. What can you tell us?
Well, we have an album. The album is about to come out in the next 2.5 weeks, if I'm not mistaken.
14th of June.
So yes, on the 14th of June, our debut album, These Blues Might Get You Too, is set to release worldwide on all streaming platforms available to you. On the day before that, we're going to have a nice, beautiful, exclusive album launch at a venue called Parkhurst, at a venue called the 40 Thieves Distillery in Parkhurst. So we have that album launch, the album coming out, and then a few days later, we're going to go travel through to Cape Town to just do a bit of a press tour, if you will, just promoting the album, and then just do a few shows there. We were in Cape Town last year for the first time as Max and Love. And we'd had like a short sort of tour that we had done there. And the reception there was quite incredible. That we didn't realize we had that much of a following or a fan base. Again, speaking to what Love was saying earlier about just how technology is helping us, reach spaces and people that we otherwise wouldn't have the ability to do that if it wasn't for things like, or tools like social media. So we'll be in Cape Town to do a bit of a press tour and a few shows. And from there is just make more music.
Sounds good. I know it's probably way off, but any plans to go overseas?
No plans just yet, but definitely manifesting it. I think Max and I still need to do a lot more dominating here in South Africa, and then travel up in the continents as well. But we definitely want to do a lot of traveling internationally and bring what we're doing to the world stage. I think it'd be of value to many spaces, and I think it'd be really exciting and just a great opportunity for us to do that. So we're definitely looking forward to doing that. The plans of which we'll see. We signed with the booking agent a few months ago, and we're still kind of seeing where that's going to take us. But if things go the way that we'd like, that's going to help us kind of move into spaces that we didn't have access to before.
And if by any chance, through any stratosphere, in any moment, Joe Bonamassa gets a hold of our album and he's planning the 2025 blues cruise. We are Max and Love, based in Johannesburg, South Africa. maxandlove@gmail.com. Just putting it out there. We are waiting. We are ready.
Stranger things have happened, and especially with him, I've seen him find the most obscure people before in the past. So you'd never know. Yeah. You could get an email someday.
Absolutely.
Right, we'll dive into the last couple. These are a couple of fun, random questions. So the first one, what are you guys currently obsessed with? It can be anything at all, from a TV show to a book to food.
West African music.
Okay.
We've somehow found ourselves in a pit, just diving into the history of that kind of music, that genre, artists from more West African countries, particularly Mali. But it's our current obsession as things stand.
I like it. Here's a bit of an odd one now. If you had to spend 24 hours locked in a room with any musician from history, who would it be?
Prince.
Right. What is it about Prince?
What is it about Prince? I think Prince is one of the most incredible musicians. His versatility, his adaptability, and his mindset, from what I understand at least, seems to be something that's really expansive, or was expansive. And I'd love to spend time with someone like that. I don't know if he's even someone who, I don't know if I'm even someone who he would acknowledge for real, but I would love to spend any amount of time around him, especially in a space where we could be making music. I would love to. That experience just sounds absolutely incredible. If not him, then it's got to be Quincy Jones for a similar reason.
I like it. Max?
Joe Bonamassa.
Never would have guessed.
Just off the top of my head. Yeah.
Right. Good one. A good one. The final question. So, what's your go-to album? What's an album you constantly go back to?
Bad by Michael Jackson. And Hawk Android by Janelle Monáe.
I like it.
Zeppelin 4.
Another very good one. I like it. Listen, guys, it's been a blast now. Thanks a million.
Thank you so much. This
Thank
is a
you,
pleasure.
man.
I said I wanna talk to you, baby. Talk. I saw you walking in, baby, with that walk. Said I want to talk to you, baby. Talk, I saw you walking it, baby, with that walking, that's what was like. Oh, that walk had attitude, caught them dudes and ladies too. Just had to go bring her a drink, yes. She said thank you, and all I could think was she did good. Then I had to catch my breath before I confessed and said something. Oh, I want to talk to you, baby. Talk, I saw you walking it, baby, with that walking, that's what was like. Oh, that walk had attitude, caught them dudes and ladies too. She turned her head and did stop the music.
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. And if you're interested in signing up to Band Builder Academy, use the link in the show notes below and enter the code CONCERTS and you'll receive 10% off.
So until next time, keep rocking.
Hey, what are you guys still doing here? The show's over. It's over. You can go home. Go on. We'll see you next time. We'll be here. Bye.